Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is a morning market prep video for Monday, July 18th, 2022. Well, we sure got inspired on Friday despite the bank earnings and even warnings of defaults and loan losses. We found a reason to rally and rally strongly. And honestly, there's a lot of high speculation going on about this season's earnings, and perhaps they're right. We'll have to wait and see. But we've got some risk here to also be considering carefully as we move forward into this earnings season. So what does that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Monday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Let's take a look at these charts, see if we can gain some information about how we may want to approach the market for today. Now, on the good news side, notice we had made a lower high followed by a lower low, and then we just ripped back to the upside in this kind of wild speculation of earnings. Now, keep in mind, as we push through this downtrend here, we're going to also run into lots of price resistance above in the chart. But it is a good sign to see. This was a very needed relief rally, but we're going to have to see if we can actually follow through and break some of these resistance levels in the charts. Now, technically, if you take a look at the chart, you can see the gap up this morning that we're pricing in is trying to push up to that 50-day moving average in the Dow. Now that's exactly where we would watch for that potential that we could run into some price resistance. And so today we really should be watching for that possibility that we pop and drop here in the morning. We pop up, we hit that resistance, and that possibility of a pullback could occur. If we can follow through and break through that resistance level, well, keep an eye on some of these price resistance levels above as we move on higher. Remember, our overall market, our overall economy is not in good shape, and this is pretty wild speculation heading into earnings. Now let's take a look at our SPY, SPY. SPY also rallying up strongly, and as you can see, if we can follow through with this morning pop, then we may actually squeak out over the top of that downtrend, which is nice to see, but we still have quite a bit of resistance here that we're going to have to deal with. And once again, I hate to be the bearer of a little bit of negativity, but you're going to have to watch these resistance levels for that potential that we could gap up, pop into that resistance, and then reverse on the day. So keep in mind our overall economic conditions are not very strong, although we are oversold and we could get a relief rally, and we were definitely in the need of a relief rally. So hopefully those bulls will find the energy today to hold on and push on through. Now, if we take a look at our technicals here in the chart, once again, we have that 50-day moving average above, and we're going to have to watch this fairly significant level of price resistance in the chart. If we can happen to get through that, then we'll start looking at levels above, but we'll want to watch those pretty closely as we try and push through. And there is a reason to be a little bit concerned, and I'll show you here in just a bit. If we take a look at our QQQ, now QQQ has been the strongest. There has been a lot of speculation on big tech here heading into earnings. Lots of hope and anticipation. Fingers crossed that you are correct, but economic conditions might suggest something else. So be kind of careful here. Now, as we push up, notice we're trying to pop through that little bit of resistance. The good news is the QQQ actually held higher lows here in the chart. So we're holding up pretty good. So we have this nice little wedging pattern in the chart, but we cannot forget the price resistance above that we still need to beat if we're going to turn this around. And unfortunately, we have bond prices going up again today, adding some additional pressure to those NASDAQ futures. So let's keep an eye on that. Now, if we take a look at our moving averages, this morning gap up could pop us above the 50-day moving average. And holy cow, it's been a long time since we've seen the NASDAQ above the 50-day moving average. But let's see if it can hold My worry would be that we could gap up, run into some price resistance, and turn back around. So remember, watch that closely. If we can get above that 50-day moving average and break that downtrend, well, then we have that possibility of what we call the rounded bottom breakout, and that would be bullish here in the charts. Let's see if there's an opportunity for those earnings to push that on through. Then let's take a look at our Russell. IWM held onto a bit of a double bottom, as you can see right here, pushing back up. Unfortunately, we still have some upside here to break that downtrend, and we have significant price resistance in the chart above. So we've got some work here to do on the Russell. And keeping in mind that 50-day moving average is right up there to provide some resistance in the chart. So once again, I want to run that idea past you that you should be watching carefully for that possibility of a pop and drop where we pop into those resistance levels, find those sellers, and pull back for a little bit. Doesn't mean that it has to fail, that the market is going to fail, just that it could pull back on the day. Now let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX surged so hard on Friday, and again, I think it's just some tremendously wild speculation on earnings that's doing this, and let's hope that that doesn't disappoint. But as you can see, pushing down, breaking that upside trend. So that is bullish for the market. And if you look right in here, we're coming close into that support. We may even break that down. Well, we probably will. If that gap holds this morning, we'll break down below that 25 handle here in the market, and that will be a good sign for those bulls here if they can continue to hold that. We'll want to watch carefully because this all or nothing market has that tendency of showing that extreme bullishness, and then we reverse to the downside. So watch that closely. That potential does exist. Let's hope that we can follow through with this relief rally just a little bit longer. And if we take a look at the T2122 indicator, this gives us that hope that we could follow through just a little bit more to the upside here in our T2122. Notice that the all or nothing market, we just zoom up here. And as you can see, if we push right up into this area here, we could be in that reversal zone. And remember, we can stay up there for a while. It doesn't necessarily mean that we pop straight up in there and have to fail, but we'll want to watch that carefully and be ready for that possibility that we may be overextending. And I think at the moment, if the morning pop holds, then we could be up here in that reversal zone right at the open. So watch again for that possibility of the pop and drop pattern to occur. If we take a look at our T2107, well, T2107 had a nice little pop back up on Friday, but I gotta tell you, it wasn't enough to really inspire a whole lot of confidence. Notice that we pushed up here toward that downtrend in the chart right into we've got price resistance here, and we're that close to actually dropping through to new lows. Only 16% of the stocks holding above their 200-day moving average wouldn't necessarily be a great sign of bullishness here in the market. So now this could be a problem with a lot of the small caps. We'll have to wait and see, but watch that close. And if we take a look at our T2108, now T2108 did surge on Friday, but I have to tell you, rising so much in the market as we did, this really wasn't all that impressive. Notice that we didn't break the high here that we had just recently in T2107. So we're still going to have to deal with this price resistance in the chart. And again, these T2107, T2108 kind of leans to that possibility that we should be watchful of the potential pop and drop at price resistance in the chart. Remember, we still have these downtrends that we're going to have to defeat. A lot of technical damage here in these charts to be repaired. So just be careful with high speculation that it's all over, that we're done going down. Remember, the big banks are still have projections much lower in the market. So we'll want to be thinking about that and just be a little bit careful here with over speculation. Let's take a look at our T2101. Now, T2101 really didn't move much at all here on Friday. Kind of an interesting circumstance. And if we were to take a look, our volume, even on that big surge, was lighter than normal. So remember, what a lot of that might have been would be the end of options expiration, a lot of shifting around going on. So we still are trying to move up on kind of anemic volume here so far. So watch that. Again, that does kind of lean to that side to watch for that potential pop and drop at resistance. Let's take a look at our economic calendar for today. In our economic calendar, not much here to worry about. We've got housing market index here this morning and Treasury International Capital, a couple of short-term bond auctions that might be interesting because we've been seeing the short-term bond auction or bonds perk up here quite a bit in prices. So watch that closely here today. But overall on this week, we have a lighter week on the calendar. Obviously, housing starts and permits can be a market mover. Existing home sales can be market movers, but you can see we're kind of we're giving ourselves a little bit of a break from these big, heavy economic numbers. But you will want to keep in mind if you're over trading, if you over speculate into this week, you'll want to remember next week, I believe, is GDP and an FOMC rate increase. So keep a close eye on that as we move throughout this week. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar for today. Now, our earnings calendar is starting to pick up, and we're going to start seeing more and more notables here today. And so, or notables this week. So we'll start ramping up, and then next week it gets absolutely crazy. Let's take a look. We're going to hear from a Bank of America this morning. Looks like Bank of America at the moment had a big pop on Friday, pulling back a little bit this morning. And as you can see, well, we're still fighting that downtrend, and we still have major technical problems above us that we need to defeat in that chart. So watch that closely on that earnings report this morning. We're also going to hear from Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs looks like they're popping up here this morning. Apparently Goldman had a reasonably good report here. Let's keep in mind, moving into downtrends, we'll want to watch that closely. Remember, a lot of these banks are having to cut their buybacks, which is going to make these a little bit challenging. They've been the biggest buyers of their stock of anyone. And if they cut their buying, it may struggle here to move a lot. So watch that closely, pushing into some major price resistance and downtrend here in the chart. We have Schwab will be, Schwab will be reporting today. Looks like it's also moving up a bit this morning. Again, watch this big price resistance here in the chart across that area. Just a second, my system decided to change the tool on me. So watch this resistance level here in the chart as we push back up, and let's also keep in mind we've got a pretty big moving average squeeze up here with our 500 or 50 or 34 all in this area up here. So as we push up, we've got significant resistance in that chart. Then we're going to take a look at IBM. IBM later on this afternoon. Watch that one closely. This has been doing really, really well in this upside trend, albeit very choppy and challenging. Moving up here, and on the longer term, you notice we're pushing past some of these longer term downtrends in IBM. So keep a close eye on that. This is one of those techs that may, if it can perform, could pop through some of that resistance and do pretty darn well. PLD is on the list today. Now this has got some problems. As you can see, we've got some rising lows, but quite a little bit of price resistance up here to be watching for. So keep an eye on that. And last but not least on the list today, SYF It's also moving up here this morning in the pre-market. Keep an eye on that as we approach these downtrends and significant resistance levels in the chart. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, guys, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post one of these videos. And if you find these videos to be useful, helpful, if you could please do me that favor and click those thumbs up buttons and leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. And I just want to say thank you so much for everyone who does do that, and also those folks that continue to support the channel through Buy Me a Coffee link. I do truly appreciate that. Let's take a look here at some stocks that are looking pretty good. I do want to remind everyone that I lost internet on Friday. In fact, I didn't get my internet back until late Saturday evening, and it was just a road construction went through and happened to create some damage and knocked it out. So I may be just a little bit behind on all of the stocks that are looking really good, but there are quite a few here that I want to point out. Take a look at UPS. Now, I've mentioned this one before, and UPS struggled in here just a little bit, and we're getting closer and closer out here on this trend. And with the bullishness that we're starting to see in the market, I think if we're going to stay bullish and we're going to see retail shake off the consumer problem that we have, then we need to see our shippers do pretty well. Now, certainly they're having to deal with higher energy prices, and I get that, but if everyone is buying online, all these shippers are going to stay busy. So watch this opportunity in here. Now, I wouldn't chase it after 3 days up. You can see we're getting a pop here this morning, but a little rest or pullback in here would set up a nice opportunity for UPS. So watch that closely. I think some of these stocks, they were really COVID favorite stocks. They sold off extremely hard here in these charts, and you can see showing some nice higher lows coming into these positions, rallying up, trying to hold some support levels in these charts. So keep an eye on stocks like Etsy, as you can see, holding in there pretty darn nice. Chewy. Also one of those stocks. This was a rounded bottom breakout pattern. It is extending up toward that 200-day moving average, which would be a target area. And clearly we have quite a little bit of price resistance in here to consider in Chewy. But watch this. If this continues to rest out here toward this trend, that opportunity of popping on through is certainly viable in that chart. Now, as you guys know, I had mentioned Rivian. Rivian as an opportunity, and you can see holding that 50-day moving average, pushing up in here, looking pretty darn good. So I'd keep an eye on that opportunity that may move on through to the upside. We had a pretty good move started here in First Solar, and this is one of those patterns that I want you guys to pay attention to. Just because we pop through a 50-day moving average doesn't necessarily mean that it's all systems go. So remember, I was pointing out that we're pushing up toward those 50s in the indexes and in that possible even pop through. And I want you to recognize right here how we can get that big false move where we push up with those higher lows right into that resistance level in the chart, and then we get the full-on reversal that happens really quick. So the reason I'm bringing this one up is to kind of caution everyone about over speculation. When you over speculate and you try to assume that just because we popped above the 50 and it held there temporarily, that it should just blow right through resistance levels, well, think again, because we can have these big, ugly reversals here on those. So please be careful and not over speculate in these charts. Certainly perfectly fine to do some trading in here and enjoy the relief rally, but don't get carried away is what I'm trying to say. If we take a look at BMY. Now, BMY rallying back here to its 50-day moving average. Big, strong move up here in the last few days. But I would watch this one carefully because notice all this price resistance here in that 50-day moving average. I think we run that possibility that this could be a short. So as we rally back into that resistance area in the chart, watch for that possibility that BMY could fail and move to the downside. So even though we're very bullish in these markets at the moment, we will want to be paying attention to some of these resistance levels and the possibility, if we pop and drop, that there could be some short trades out there as well to be paying attention to. So watch those closely. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thanks so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. I want to wish you all of the best, and we'll see you right back here bright and early Tuesday morning. Take care, everyone.